Greetings and peace. Continuing the real divide. The real division that exists in this world, which is the truth. The Most High's law, the Great Spirit's law. And his beloved Son, the King and Priest who resides over it. This division is going to continue until the end of this world. There's a beginning of this world. There was a beginning and there will be an end. Science will put out there, so-called science will put out there that we're going to continue for millions and billions of years, that there's going to be cycles of extinction and re-evolution and all that. It's all lies. There's a conspiracy against the truth in this earth, because this earth is run by conscious Luciferians who have chosen to rebel against the true and living God. That's the reality. They show you it through the movies, music, right? In subtle ways. Conscious Luciferians run things. And they're implementing, right? They're forcing their way of life, enforcing their way of life on this planet, degree by degree. Everything that is unrighteous, they promote. Why do they do that? Nothing is neutral in this earth. Why do they promote things that are against God's law? Because they've chosen their side. They've chosen their God. See, this world is quite simple to understand once we understand the spiritual, once we come into the knowledge of the spiritual division that existed and where it started. You see, all nations were conscious at one point of the true and living God, of the Great Spirit, of the Most High. After the flood that destroyed this earth because immorality had corrupted this whole earth, Noah and his 3 sons and their families, which, by the way, all nations had accounts of this. All nations twisted it to their own culture. But all nations were familiar with this. Only the Hebrews retained the correct understanding of it, because they were the only people that chose the living God. They were the only people that chose the correct path. And the Heavenly Father dealt with them. So they retained the clear and simple understanding of what happened and what's going to happen. Their records are the only records on this planet that give us understanding from beginning to end. And they're very simple, because the Heavenly Father deals with us in simplicity so that none of us will be confused. But people are going to believe what they want to believe about the Bible. Just like we can all choose whatever we want in this life or death. We can choose any spirit of error that we want, or we can choose the spirit of truth. All nations were conscious of needing to exercise faith towards the one God over all. As the Native Americans called him, the Great Spirit. But all nations except one decided to rebel against that thought. Rebel against exercising faith. And they turned their heart against their Maker. And they multiplied error in this world, calling gods that were not gods. And you know what happens with that? When we turn away from the truth, we automatically, it's automata, that the spirit of rebellion takes root in our heart, and we produce unrighteousness and wickedness. And that's why this world has been tore up, why there's been so many wars, why there's so much oppression and murder. Because the spirit of wickedness took root in the nation's heart because of rebellion against God. God is love and peace, but there's a law that comes with that. And when we don't abide by that, that's the world that you get. That's the world that we live in. Corruption. Look, we're all paying the price for the original rebellion against God. The original man and woman, who we call Adam and Eve in the English. But we've all chosen our own sin as well, but we have an opportunity to amend that. That's the world we live in. Remember, all religions stem from ancient Babylon. They just took on their particular names and their peculiar customs according to where they spread to with the different families. See, they hide a lot of this history. Even until this day, you can find peoples that have the names of Noah's 3 sons. And as you search through history, you find nations that are named after Noah's 3 sons. Now, why is that the case? Because again, every nation is descended from those 3 sons and their families. And then people say the Bible is just a religious book. You know, the Bible is a history book, a book of prophecy, law, understanding, and wisdom. And no other people have anything that's even remotely close to what the Hebrews collected. No people have even produced anything like the Dead Sea Scrolls. Look up the Dead Sea Scrolls, which they found in the 1900s, by the way, or the 1940s, I believe. Records from the Hebrews that go into everything I'm saying, that weren't tampered with men. They found them in caves, not touched by anybody. But again, people are going to believe what they want to believe about the Bible. And I understand why, because there's been a conspiracy against the truth. As I said in Christianity the Trap, the series that I've done on Christianity, they don't teach the Bible circumspectly. Many men and women have used the Bible to make money. A powerful tool to trap people spiritually, because the records contain the truth. But they twist them to trap people and to profit off of people's ignorance. But yes, the answer is in those records. And understand that every nation made a choice. And that's affected us all. Because most people to this day are caught up in erroneous religions. We got to call it what it is. Life is short. There's no reincarnation. We got one shot to show whether we have love for the Great Spirit or hate. If we're going to live this life and not seek the truth, that's a meaningless life. It's foolishness. And if we can't come to the point where we say that's right and that's wrong, we haven't arrived to anything significant in this life. Everything else is vain. There's not a king, there's not a queen, there's not a wise man or a wise woman alive that's even got close to the wisdom of Solomon. And what did Solomon say? You know, I always challenge people. Show me anybody today that's a philosopher. Anybody talking about psychology and science and history and anything. Show me someone that's as wise as Solomon. And what did he say? Fear God and keep his commandments. Now, why did he say that? Because God's law is the truth. And all the prophets and wise men and wise women of the Hebrews that gave testimony to that and led up to the king and priest that the Heavenly Father chose, his son, who we call Jesus in the English, even though that wasn't his name, but the Son of God who resides over that now, and his testimony, that's the truth. And that's the division that's going to continue, because even the Son of God said himself, I didn't come to bring peace, but division and a sword that would break up families. Why? Because there's a spiritual division and everyone chooses. We have to make our choice. What's your soul worth? What's my soul worth? Do I want to go to hell because other people want to hold to traditions? It's all a struggle for, you know, any one of us. I get it. Families growing up in errors, erroneous religions, and you have to break away from that. And then you realize what the spiritual divide is, that people will actually separate from you because of that. That's how real this divide is. The separation is the spiritual reality of this life. Moving out of that darkness. But that's the test that we have. We don't want to give up our souls, right? Because it's eternity after this. We were made to be immortal. Our souls will not be destroyed. We're either going into punishment for continuing to rebel against God, because the law, right, brings judgment upon those who continue to break it. For those of us who hold to sin, there has to be a punishment for us. For those of us who amend our ways and exercise faith, we can make it into the kingdom. We can have that reward of immortality. But the Heavenly Father is going to separate those who continue to hate him. See, it's either love or hate. The grace in our life is that we can amend our ways. We've all sinned. There's not a man or woman alive that has not sinned. The Heavenly Father is just and right to forgive us if we confess and amend our lives, exercise faith towards him, understand the testimony of his Son, accept what's right and pleasing to him, not creating our own thoughts about it. The answers are there. The real division in this earth. All nations had a choice, and all nations except one chose their rebellion. And to show you how real it is, God's people rebelled, the tribes of Israel, and they were scattered everywhere. And that's why there has not been a nation that's upheld the standard. They were the people, but then they got scattered and punished by other nations. They were put under other nations. The Aboriginal people of North, Central, and South America. So-called black of the diaspora. They were punished for their disobedience. And many other tribes all over the planet, all over the world. But we're living in a time where knowledge is increasing. And so that we'll all have an opportunity to see through the errors that are in this life. Yes, religions are a trap, but the Bible and the records of the Hebrews are the truth. That's the way. If you're dealing with people that don't want to deal with that, let them go their way. But you figure it out. You seek it. Take your life very seriously. Let's take our life seriously because it's short. Let me know what you think. Until next time, get wisdom over everything. Peace.